This Thrive Loud episode is brought to you by Hinge Consulting. Success on Amazon hinges on well-executed strategies. Contact Hinge Consulting to learn about total Amazon channel management and to see if your business has what it takes to grow over 300% over the next 12 months. That's Hinge Consulting at hingeconsulting.co.
Ah, the sweet sounds of spring. Don't you love it? The birds are singing and all those, other sounds. I love spring. Welcome to spring, Thrive Loud listeners. We made it. As you're transitioning from the brisk cold of winter into the sunshine-filled spring, make it your springtime resolution to listen to the inspirational speakers that we have here on Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Cleaning the house? Listen to Thrive Loud. Doing yard work? Thrive Loud. Going for a run outside? Thrive Loud, people! We put all of these shows together for you, our listeners, and you are totally missing out if you're not tuning in. So grab your phone, computer, iPod, whatever it is, subscribe to Thrive Loud on wherever you listen to podcasts, and start getting inspired. Pretty soon, you'll start thriving in your own life each and every day.
Now I'm getting really excited. Okay, this is the part where I'm going to get loud.
Holy crap, here we go.
I like telling stories.
I learn best through experiences.
Everything I do is because of everything I did.
Talk about having maximum impact while having a ton of fun.
When you can net through that, what you do leave behind for your listener will have more impact.
Wow, bring it on.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, I bring you founder and COO of Cirrus Insight and a guy that is thriving on so many levels, I don't even know where to begin. He's an endurance sports fan, a cyclist, a man who loves hiking, camping, and building with Legos, because that's going to be a great story. And he's pretty much an absolutely awesome gentleman from Knoxville, Tennessee. Thrive Loud listeners, Brandon Bruce. Brandon, how are you today?
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Lou. Doing great.
I know I give openings that everyone always says to me, Lou, where do you come up with the stuff that you do? I go, I just tell everything as it is.
I know. So, it makes me want to drop the mic. I should go outside and go do something awesome right now, right?
Well, isn't that what life is all about, doing something awesome? We only hope that people are listening to the show. Maybe they're running, they're hiking, and or maybe going on a drive to some place that they're, running and hiking to. And maybe Absolutely. That's a good way to connect the dots there. So, Brandon, I love to kind of have the Thrive Loud listeners know a little bit about the guest and have it, from their words, explain their journey. And you have a pretty cool company that does some pretty interesting things. So I want to kind of foray into that. And why don't you kind of give us the pathway that led you to Cirrus, and from there we'll be able to go with it. So I'm going to give you the baton and let you start running down the lane here.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think as Yogi Berra said, it's always best to start at the beginning. I went to a very, very small school out in the Central Coast, rural California. It was called the Family School, and okay. I was one of 2 students in my class.
Wow.
So I always tell people I either finished first or second in my elementary school. I don't know which one because nobody really cared. But it was a wonderful place to learn. It was very self-directed. I remember a friend of mine picked up an algebra book and said, I'm going to start learning algebra. And I felt a little bit jealous. So I picked up the other book and started learning it myself also. And so it ended up being a great way for me to learn, but also spend a ton of time outside, right? If it was a nice day, we'd just go for a hike in the woods, learn about all the flora and fauna that we could see. So, we didn't have running water toilets out there. We had outhouses. So it was definitely very rural. And when I moved out here to Tennessee, people said like, oh, you're from California. And they immediately picture bustling Los Angeles or, the Golden Gate Bridge up in San Francisco, right? Especially since I'm into tech. And I was like, no, I'm from an area that's as or more rural than anywhere in Knox County, which has some pretty rural areas too. But that was my upbringing. And starting kind of late in high school and then in college at UC Santa Barbara, I started reading stories about people that were starting and funding technology companies. And I was just captivated by it. I thought, wow, this is like the coolest thing for people to have an idea and then they can put it out there and not only get a few customers or a few users, but it's like, the 98, 99, that was the beginning of scale. You could get it out and it could grow pretty fast. So that's when I met my co-founder, Ryan Huff, was at college. We did a bunch of projects together, but we never really got anything like a business off the ground. So fast forward 14, 15 years, both of us had gotten some experience out in the world. And then Ryan really came up with the idea for Cirrus Insight because he saw a gap. And that I think is always part of the key, and at least it has been for our entrepreneurial journey, is he was looking at Gmail, and then he had developed a lot of expertise in the Salesforce platform and said, hey, these two big cloud platforms are not connected, and that's not good for users. People are going to spend all day jumping back and forth between Gmail on the web and then this Salesforce tab on the web, and starting to drive him crazy. So he started coding and gave me a call, and I started calling people to see if they'd be interested in using it. And that's how we got our initial users. And that's how we've kind of grown the company starting 6 years ago. So he's based in Irvine and has our full product development team out there. And I'm in the great state of Tennessee, in East Tennessee. My wife's a professor. So we moved out here about 10, 11 years ago. And it's been a great place for us to build a company.
Well, so this is great. And I totally understood that pain point. I've run sales teams before and have been around Salesforce.com. I've also worked with different clients that have used it as well to help their sales teams. And I will tell you what you just described was a pain point that everybody had, the different forms between them. So you're basically providing, which is great. Anytime that someone coming up with, there's a problem and we're here to fix it, and it's a certain niche. So you've put this solution together, but how have you been integrating and marketing this message to all the different people to use it? What has that been like? Because it can be pretty challenging in a very, everyone's got their own way of doing things. What have you been doing at Cirrus that has made you stand out and be a little different?
Yeah, I think our message going back 6 years ago when we started was very much spending time, especially with salespeople and sales teams, and just saying, well, how do you really work? Like, can we just sit next to you? Can we join you on a go-to meeting and just let it run for a few hours and just kind of talk through what you're doing and why you're doing it? And as is probably no surprise to listeners, the majority of the time we all spend in our inbox because that's where customer inquiries are coming in, and that's where questions from existing customers are coming in. And then otherwise, we're spending our time in the calendar, looking to see what's next and then scheduling the rest of today and tomorrow and next week and next month in meetings. So we thought, well, if everyone's spending all their time working in email and in calendar, but then they're having to leave that natural workflow where they're close to their customers and leave their customers to go learn about their customers because all the data is stored in Salesforce. We just thought, well, we can take the data out of Salesforce. That has a great API, and we'll put it inside of Gmail. And then later we added Outlook. So now our users are basically always connected to Salesforce. They can see all the customer information. They can update it. They can add more customer information, but they never have to leave their natural environment. Their natural habitat as a salesperson. Like, stay close to your customers. You don't want people to leave and go look up data in a database for the sake of doing it. You want them to be responding to customers as fast as possible. So our users stay in Gmail and stay in Outlook all day and get a ton of work done.
No, and it's great. And I love how it's still serving the service. And as a sales manager, it's awesome because they're using the things that they do and they're still getting the same information without that extra step. Which brings me to the point, have you also mirrored this, obviously, not just on the desktop, but you've also done it on the mobile aspect as well, correct?
Yeah. And I think, 3-4 years ago, the big push was, hey, everything enterprise is going to go mobile. So we're like, well, we definitely need to be there. And people certainly check email on their phone all the time, and tablets too, to some extent. So we ported Cirrus Insight. We made a native iOS app and a native Android app so that our users, who still today primarily use it on the desktop,
right,
but as soon as they're out on the road, as soon as they step out of the office, they can also use our mobile application to easily log those emails into Salesforce, sync those calendar events, but also make these little small updates, right? The customer emails in, hey, I just left my job, I'm starting another job. And you want to make that edit while you think of it. In other words, right now in Salesforce, because otherwise 100 other customer emails are going to come in and it will never happen. So it's trying to give our end users the ability to make updates in a just-in-time way versus, starring the message for a week from now to a time where you're not going to have time in the future either. So we're just trying to connect them constantly to customer information so they don't have to go hunting for it, or so that they don't skip it altogether, in which case it kind of defeats the purpose of having a CRM if you're not putting good data in there.
It's really interesting. I looked at my phone usage. I ran my iPhone through an analyzer that showed the percentage of time that I'm in certain applications. And without a doubt, number one was my mail app and how frequently I check mail. I'm speaking a lot and on the road or with clients, so I'm always checking to see if people are emailing me. And right behind that is the calendar 2 seconds later. So it's exactly, I guess, how most people utilize it.
It's the same for me. And I was able to, I think about a year ago, do a big purge of apps. I mean, I realized I downloaded like hundreds of apps just to try them. And I purged a ton of apps from the phone because really I used mail, text messaging I use quite a bit, calendar certainly, and then of course the phone to some extent. But now my phone is filling up again because my kids are 6 and 7 and they got iPads for Christmas. And we're on this connected family through iTunes, which I had to figure out quickly after they got the iPad. I was like, well, I want to help them download apps. So now every app they install ends up on my phone too, which I think there's a setting for that. I can probably change it. But it's kind of interesting to see these hundreds of little games and reading apps and math apps and all this stuff dropping into my phone.
It's interesting. My kids are a little bit older than yours. Mine seem to be more along the lines of, let's see, Tetris, some kind of computer itch game. I'm playing HQ now, a new version of Solitaire. It just, I'm now actually distracted more by the games the kids put on.
People kept saying it's an app economy. It's an app economy. And I was like, well, I mean, we're in the SaaS business, so I hope that it's a SaaS economy. But now I realize to what extent it is an app economy, because not a day goes by the kids aren't like, hey, can I do this power up? Can I add this layer in Minecraft or whatever?
Right.
Sure, I guess we can try it, but let's not do it like constantly, because each time it's like a couple dollars, right? It adds up. But it is interesting to see how addictive those things can get. There's some companies that have built some really neat models there.
Brandon, talk to me a little bit. The company's now about 6 years old, right? And you have one guy out in California, you over in Knoxville, in Tennessee. Obviously started off with just the two of you guys. What does the company look like today?
There's just the two of us. We ran it, just the two of us for the first 9 months. And then we took on a couple of angel investors, which really helped us a lot because cash flow was strong, but really rocky. And we didn't honestly feel psychologically comfortable. Like, can we hire an employee? Like, we can pay ourselves 1 month and then skip a month, and that's on us because it's our company. But it kind of felt hard to do that to an employee. Like, hey, cash flow is great this month, but who knows what's going to happen next month, because it was going up and down. So having those angels come in and back us and say they had confidence in our future helped us to make those first hires. And then since then, we've really grown kind of organically along with our customers. So as customers come in and buy and add seats, we've been able to scale the team. So between Irvine, California, and Knoxville, Tennessee, we have today about 60 people, pretty evenly split between sales, marketing, support, and then on the other side of the house, product design, management, and our engineers.
I love this. For the Thrive Lab listeners, I always like to have my guests fill out certain, there's a form they fill out before they come on the show. And some people jump right in and they embody the idea of the show. And Brandon did just this. And one of the questions was, what do you think our listeners would want to hear? And he wrote, thriving in a mid-sized city in the South, thriving as a parent, thriving in tech by getting outside. So let's go through each one of these. Talk to me about Knoxville. And this is pretty cool because I am fascinated by Tennessee. I have a lot of friends recently. Their kids have actually applied to Vanderbilt, so they were down in Nashville. I love Nashville. Awesome. I've been there. I used to do a ton of business when I worked on Wall Street. Every year I'd go down to Memphis in May. And I never actually made it in the middle to Knoxville, so to speak, or a little bit higher up. What's it like, and how has it been like actually you're creating jobs and growing in a city that's got such a cool vibe and a really great place to live? It's always on one of those lists of best places to live. So can you talk a little bit about that?
It is. It's been on a lot of lists over the past couple of years, which has been fun to see. But here's my Chamber of Commerce pitch. One, even before we started the company, my wife and I really enjoy living here. It's a beautiful area. So there's a ton of rivers and lakes, and right in the backyard is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which, as a piece of trivia, and most listeners, because I didn't know this, probably don't know this, most of us would have said most visited national park in the country, maybe Yosemite, maybe Yellowstone. Turns out it's the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Really?
In part, There's a big East Coast population, but in large part also because when it was established, they said it needed to be free. So anyone can visit the national park for free. So it's
very cool.
The best deal around. Amazing place to go. Great hikes, great backpacking, great place to take the kids camping. So it's fun to be in an area that has a lot of natural beauty. Other things that Knoxville is very well known for, obviously, the University of Tennessee is here. That's our big university. Yep. So tremendous amount of research and development happening. Great student body. So about half of the employees we've hired here have been from University of Tennessee. The other half, and especially early on in the company, have been from Maryville College, which is closer to the Great Smoky Mountains, which is where my wife teaches. Okay, and so that's been a great pipeline for us, is because she's got connections with students, and then we're able to hire them straight out of school. But for us, Knoxville's been great. It doesn't have a history. It's not well known as a place for tech, but just up the road, we've got about the highest density of PhDs in the country because it's Oak Ridge National Lab. And so Oak Ridge is known as the secret city. So probably not too many people have heard of it, but it was where they did all the enrichment of uranium during World War II for the Manhattan Project.
Oh, wow.
So today, it's where all of the nuclear warheads are maintained and managed. Happens in Oak Ridge. You got a ton of smart people that are very careful. And you've also got a ton of computing power and high-speed internet out in this part of the country. So all those things combined, my experience has been, it's been a great place to have a startup because there's a ton of folks coming out of school. There's a ton of people that are really into research, development, innovation. And so it's been a great fit. We've been looking for those people, and those people are happy to have companies like ours, and there's a bunch of others in town now that will hire, because otherwise they would be looking to go to Atlanta or Austin or the Bay Area or New York, and those are all awesome cities. But from a lifestyle perspective, it's pretty great to be here, have no traffic, be able to come to work, and then get out in the woods, 15 minutes later, or go take a mountain bike ride or get the boat out on the lake. No, so from a lifestyle perspective, we really like being out here.
Let me get back to this dual identity you got. Obviously, you have the company headquartered where you are, but you also have folks out in Irvine, about 50-50 split. Managing that between the two, challenging or actually refreshing? I know some people actually like that balance when there's different opinions or different folks. Or how do you get around working with both teams in different geographies?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a bunch of benefits. One of which is we can draw from talent pools on both sides of the country, which is huge. There's also kind of benefits from a just time zone perspective, right? Customers on one side versus the other side of the world. We've got this 3-hour band of coverage. So depending on, they're in Australia, maybe the West Coast will take it. They're in Europe. Okay, we're up early in the morning. We can talk with those folks. But certainly there have been drawbacks or challenges, which is just the communication. There is a difference with all the great tools we have, and we use all of them. So we're on Hangouts and Slack, and we've obviously got email and everything else. But there is something about just being in the office and being able to just pick up your laptop and go sit next to somebody and say, "Hey, let's figure this out together."
Right.
And so that's often the challenge is just, hey, that needs to be scheduled, or you need to find the person that's available on Slack and go through it. So there is that gap, but thankfully, in a lot of ways, it's in the DNA because that's how Ryan and I started the company. So we were very used to doing that. In fact, when my daughter was about 2, she was walking around the house with her toy phone, talking, right? And so I playfully said, who are you talking to? And she turned to me and said, "Shh, I'm talking to Ryan." And that's because great. She had seen me walk around the house for 4 to 6 hours a day on the phone with Ryan. So then she decided that was what you do with a phone, is walk around the house talking with Ryan. So we keep in close touch, even though geographically, we're 2,000 miles apart.
So this is great, and I love the connecting, keeping the connection strong, and it probably also makes everyone very conscious about over communicating when they need to, which is important. Along the lines,
it makes retreats. It makes retreats fun too.
Yeah,
and so I will say we've had a retreat every year, and somehow we're lucky when it comes to baseball. So we got the company together several times in San Francisco, right, tech hub of the world, and then the Giants won the World Series every year. We had the meeting there. And then a couple of years ago, we changed and had the meeting in Chicago. And then the Cubs won the World Series. So we're just putting the vibe out there now that if anyone's into baseball that's listening, if you want us to have our retreat in your city so that your team can win the World Series, let us know.
I'm thinking my Mets haven't won in a very, very long time. Anytime you want to come up to this lovely city that we have, let's make it happen. I think we could work something out.
Let's do it.
So I know. Let's get back a little to the business here. That you've had a recent acquisition. You want to talk about that? You recently acquired Attach.io and how that's going to help your company. Talk about that a little.
Yeah, Attach is a great company with a neat story. So they set out to solve this problem of you've got a slide deck or a proposal or a contract and you want to send it out to a prospect or customer. And we've basically been doing it the same way for the last 25 years, which is you take the file, you save it to your desktop, and you drag it onto an email and you send the email. And so it's an attachment. Right. And if it's a really big attachment, sometimes the email will fail out or it will get blocked by the recipient. And sometimes the recipient will block it out because it looks like malware or spam or something like that. But the big question as the sender is, did the person get the email? And then, okay, they got the email, but did they see the attachment? Did they open the attachment? Did they like what was inside of it? They never really replied to it to let me know if the slide deck resonated with them or if they're thinking of moving forward with the proposal. So what Attach did is said, okay, why don't you take your great sales collateral, marketing collateral, put it all in one place so your team can share it. Everyone can be, rowing the boat in the same direction. Everyone's using the same up-to-date marketing and sales material. And then when you want to use one of those, you want to grab your great slide deck, your proposal, you just create a link to it and put the link in your email. Then the recipient clicks the link and you get an alert. They've opened it. And then you can actually watch them in real time, view the presentation. So you can say, okay, it's a 10 slide deck and they're on page 6 and then they just left.
Wow,
somehow page 6, they're not interested anymore, which is too bad because my pricing was on page 9. So the chance of them moving forward with a deal, at least right now, is pretty slim. Meanwhile, you can also see, did they forward it to somebody else? Did that person log in and take a look at the file? Are they sending it around the company? Are they opening it multiple times across multiple days, which are all good engagement metrics? And you can say this is trending the right direction. So it's a neat platform and it fit really well with what we do with Cirrus Insight because we already had email tracking, email open tracking, link click tracking, the ability to use templates, the ability to quickly schedule meetings through email. So this was a natural fit with, hey, the ability to add a trackable attachment in the email so you can get sales signals. So we're still in the process of continuing to integrate those applications, which is a lot of fun. But meanwhile, they work together already really well. So our team is on it, obviously, and we're getting more and more customers kind of picking it up and saying, this is a much better way to handle all of our files and send out proposals to customers.
I literally can think of 20 reasons that I have to utilize that because I'm often doing the same type of thing, sending things and want to know how far they've gotten with that, let alone my clients that are doing the same. So we may have to have a follow-up.
Yeah, we have a very uncomplicated acquisition strategy, if you will, which is we've seen 2 apps where we've been the recipient of someone else using the app, and we thought that was really cool. So the first one was Assistant.to, which enables you to schedule meetings by just putting your availability into a message. And the second one was Attach, where it was like, oh, this is a cool link. Oh, the slide deck's just built into a web page. I didn't have to download anything. This was awesome. And so we reached out to both companies over the last few years and made deals work. So we're excited to be working with them.
Well, congrats on that. And look, it's been great. This company's been thriving every single day, whether you're in the mid-sized city or, with your family, technology and everything. Here's the question the Thrive Loud listeners love to hear, Brandon. When you have trouble thriving, who do you turn to get back on the thriving track?
Man, for me, it's all about family time. And that's where the Legos come in.
Yeah, I was going to dive in there. Let's hear this.
I mean, I'd have to ask my mom, like, did I play with Legos a lot as a kid? But maybe a little bit, but not a ton. But my kids are super into them in part because I like getting them. I like doing the kits too. Now they've way surpassed me. I call them little master builders. But over the holiday, we did the Tower Bridge in London, which is one of Lego's largest sets. Right? It's 4,295 pieces, which was fun because my son was 5, turning 6, and he saw the box and it said creator 16 plus for the age range, and he was like, "Well, I'm almost 6. I can probably figure it out." And I was like, "Of course you can. Let's dig in and do it." It took us a week to build the thing, and it's it's just great time spent. It's great bonding time. We have a good time. We laugh, and it's fun to try to figure out how to put these things together. So I like the tactile nature of it is a lot of fun. That and pretty much anything and everything outdoors. So I do spend substantial time just by myself, whether it's paddling the canoe or out for a long bike ride, which I've been doing for years, or sometimes just taking a hike in the woods. I find that's the time where I usually can get centered and frequently have my better ideas. Whereas during the workday, things are a little bit more harried. So I don't have particular insight during those days. I'm usually just firefighting. When you get outside and things can quiet down, that's when inspiration usually strikes.
Oh, this is awesome. And I'm loving hearing all about it. Sounds, I love the balance of who do you seek to? You seek out your family and you're doing Lego, and then you still are the outside person. So you got a nice balance going on here, Brandon. I think it's great.
Keeps it fun.
It definitely does. Give us all the plugs. Give us all the places people can find you, Cirrus Insight, everything that makes everyone here know where to go. We'll put all the show links in, but sometimes hearing from you is a little more effective.
Yeah, if folks are intrigued by the application or like, well, shoot, I can just pop that in Gmail or Outlook and test it out. And it is literally that fast. It's like 2 clicks. You can put it into your inbox. Our website where you can install it from is cirrusinsight.com. So it's Cirrus, like the high wispy clouds, CIRRUS. A couple people over the last few years, one called us Citrus Insight. And so we made a video about how we got into the orange juice business. And then last year, someone introduced me on a panel and said, Brandon Bruce from Cirrus Insight, which I said, that sounds like a fun company to work for. But we're Cirrus Insight. So the website, certainly anyone can always email me, Brandon@cirrusinsight.com. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, like pretty much everybody is these days. So we're easy to reach. And certainly if anyone's ever out in East Tennessee and wants to cruise around Knoxville and get outdoors or visit the company for one of our Friday company lunches, then give us a shout.
I think this is something in my near future, by the way, because I happen to love the state of Tennessee. So we're gonna make that happen, you and me.
Sounds good.
Let's do my favorite question here. What's your all-time favorite movie?
Wow, all-time favorite movie. I still go back quite a ways. This will date myself, but I would have to say Braveheart. And I think part of that is because Bruce is my last name, so I have a Scottish, right? And so seeing some of that history in living color, and I just thought it was a great story.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was 90s, right? It wasn't like...
That's right. It was right. It was 90s. But I'm reminded daily at work, because a number of the employees are younger than I am, that I'll make a reference to something that came from the 90s that I think is particularly funny, right? Maybe it's a Jim Carrey movie or a line from Fletch or something. And I'm looking around and I realize no one else knows what I'm talking about. I'm the only one that's laughing. And that's okay.
They just need to catch up, Brandon. They just have to catch up and do some homework. We used to do that when I worked.
It's time to get on Netflix and watch what they probably think of as the oldies. That was good back then.
However, Braveheart is awesome, and it's one of those just epics. You can't not love that movie.
It is. It's a classic.
Definitely. Hey, Brandon, this has been awesome. A lot of fun, and very excited about your company and excited for what is to come, because I have a feeling there's a lot more down the pike for you.
I think it's going to be a big year. I think overall for sales tech, as a salesperson, I hope everything just keeps getting better and better. Sales is hard enough, so we all need as much help as we can get.
Well, great. And such a pleasure to have you on, and thanks for coming on the show.
Likewise. Thanks a bunch, Lou.
You got it. And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.